So, things are not looking good.
Intro?
Hi, and welcome to this video. Today we'll be discussing Multiplicity, which is the second episode of the 5th season of Rick and Morty. I'll straight up say this video will contain all the spoilers. This series, in general, will not be a series of spoiler-free reviews. This will be a series of episode discussions, and this episode makes me have to introduce segments into these videos because I mentioned in my previous video, linked here, that I fear that Rick and Morty is abandoning continuity in the sense that there won't really be overarching plot lines for every season, but that they will just be disconnected storylines in which half of the humor relies on understanding previous episodes. And this episode definitely makes me feel that fear. How far from continuity does it stray, and how much does it make me fear that this series is becoming just a self-referential, well, for me, nightmare, but show for everybody else, for potentially. The second thing is going to be the characters and what is the journey, psychological journey of each character throughout the episodes. Sometimes I will have more to say, sometimes less. It really depends. And the third, which is essentially unrelated to the previous two, is the general fan factor of the episode, or how good it is. Both of those things. I think the order will be different, and I will start with the fan factor, then move on to characters, and then the Simpsoniness. So anyhow, welcome. The episode starts at the Smith family breakfast table with Rick and Morty discussing Beth, talking about Jerry's job interview. It is interrupted by killing of the whole family by squids, the villain of the episode. It turns out that the killed Smith family are just decoys who are there to ensure the safety of the seemingly real Smith family, who are playing kill Mr. Always Want to Be, or hunt Mr. Always Want to Be Hunted, who is a Mr. Poopy Butthole knockoff. They are also very quickly killed by the squids. Then the camera cuts to the Smith family who are on vacation in Italy, I guess, or whatever, and they also realize they are decoys. The sci-fi theme of the episode is clones, and the concept of taking a sci-fi thing and exploring all possible options is something that's already been done with time travel in Rattlestar Galactica. And the fact that the whole family are now clones has importance because Beth had this whole freak out about being a clone in the season 3 finale, which is also referenced in the episode. I don't think Rattlestar is directly referenced just conceptually, but the fact that Beth had a freak out for being a clone is constantly alluded to throughout the episode. The unexpected number of clones is explained by an Asimov cascade, which is a concept made up for the show. Isaac Asimov is a famous sci-fi writer. I think even the word robotics was coined by him. He's that important.
He's also directly referenced in text in, I believe, season 3, episode 1, when Summer calls Morty Isaac Asshole, and in season 4, episode 1, when a holographic Rick talks about Isaac Asimov robotics rules bullshit.
But Asimov cascade in text is the effect of where squids kill a decoy family, so which alerts then not other decoys, who are then seeking out other decoys, who then create decoys, and the confrontation makes them realize they're decoys, so they search out their own decoys. There's also a very good theme introduced to the cascade, which is that the copy is always worse than the original, and it starts very subtle, so just a Smith family which loses a confrontation is clearly the decoys because the better ones are closer to the original, but as it trickles down further, the Smith family is moving further and further from the original, first in a Westworld clone type of way where they look very realistic, then cyborgs. I took pictures because I took pictures of different types of Smith families included. One of them were Muppets. There was also 2 types of robots I caught on camera. There were Pinocchio type dolls, but also, and I want to mention it because might be a reference, there is a Wicker Smith family, and I want to point out that in the Citadel episode, so it had to be season 2 episode 1, Rick loses his fear of wicker furniture, which could in context allow him to make decoys out of wicker. Out of wick? I'm not going to check how do you say that. So I think I talked about clones enough. There are also 2 Smith family decoy storylines, which are clearly there just to kill audience expectations, because let's remember from season 4 that the creators kind of like being mean to their fans. For a second, they make it out as if the whole decoy plotline is just a kinetic mislead to a special episode of Interdimensional Cable. That family dies. And there is also another family which starts their discussion of, so you want to know more about Beth's mom, but the discussion is abandoned and they are killed quite soon after. So that's 5 references already. There is also a reference to explain why all the clones are fighting each other instead of cooperating. They use the prisoner's dilemma, which is a psychological concept and a paradox. No, not really. A concept. Oh, bless me. Where people tend to choose the outcome that is the worst for all of them. I will put a picture here. I'm not going to talk too much about it. I'll now talk about other references in the episode. Okay, so before I say what I think about this plot as it stands, I'll mention other references in text. And by text, I just mean the text of culture, like piece of media. First is the whole concept of with Rick fighting a Rick, and kind of plays into the prisoner's dilemma, but also shows that it's untrue and cooperation would have been better because they shoot at each other under false assumption that they are the better person. So yeah, I mentioned cloned Beth. Mr. Always Want to Be Hunted clearly is a knock of Poopy Butthole. I mentioned that. There is the visual reference to Muppets, who are said to be too cute to kill. There is also a reference to dolphin people. So I feel that this first episode of season 3, Time Fracture Testicle Monster episode, is very heavily referenced because dolphin people are mentioned in the post-credit scene of that video. Supposedly, in Earth's timeline, there's a time where there are dolphin people, and in here we learn that it is a possible outcome for Earth. So here are the dolphin people on screen, and I feel that the bird on the right could be a reference to that other cartoon bird. I don't know who he is. I'll show him on screen. Westworld is referenced in 2 ways. First of all, as a concept of decoys and fake humans, but also there is a West world, as in a cowboy world, by the end of the episode, but the cowboys could also be a reference to the episode where Morty sees a cowboy Morty and Rick mocks him for being easily impressed. So the presence of cowboys could be, which the audience would probably think are cool, could be a reference. Just showing a cowboy could be a shortcut to saying F you, you're easily impressed, which would be very on par and in character for the show creators. There is Who Wants to Live Forever, I think, by Queen in the background at the when immortality is discussed, which is cool. Highlander is referenced because of the concept that there can only be one. Okay, and the last reference I want to mention is that when there is a particularly at peace with their situation, decoy Smith family, there Rick says that the Rule 34 of the Asimov Cascade is everywhere we think to hide is somewhere where they'll think to look. And I thought that the reference to Rule 34 is because of the form of the Rule 34, which is if X, then always Y. In case of Rule 34 is if something exists, there is porn of it. So here, if we think of something, they will think of it too. But when I was Googling Asimov Cascade to verify whether it's a real concept, I found this Decider article linked in the description box, where they mentioned that the reference to Rule 34 could be because just exhausting a sci-fi concept is like porn for Rick and Morty fans. So that's also something to take into account. I think both my theory and Decider theory can coexist and probably are both true, because while the show is not smart, the jokes are quite cerebral, but not in the sense that they are difficult to understand. But I think they are high concept and multi-level, so we can assume that both theories are true at the same time. Now, at first, because I am so invested in hoping that the show will have some kind of continuity, I was really disappointed. First of all, because I felt the squids were a red herring. The first episode mentions mer people, so clearly I thought that the squids were just Mr. Nimbus's, lackeys. They are not. And in text also the squids turn out to be just completely irrelevant, and actually they turn out to be just a complete red herring because they are costumed Smith family. I don't know why. Okay, so as a kick to my gut, because it kind of ruins my hope. It ruined my hope for continuity in this episode. It is funny on its own to introduce the concept of squids as villains who turn out to be completely irrelevant, and who knows how they even came to be and who even thought of this idea in the first place. Also, I love Rattlestar Galactica, which is about exhausting a sci-fi concept. I just love how finite and how exhaustive the time travel thing is, and because of that I cannot really justify pooping on the clone episode. On its own, I feel it is a solid episode. It is very exhaustive. I feel the jokes are funny, and it is very, very high concept. I don't mind the mean jokes toward the audience, so as a whole, the episode is good, is fun. Yeah, and I don't know how I'm going to rate it because my feelings are so mixed, and I don't know whether this will be the special self-contained episode of the series, like Rattlestar, like The Purge, which is the worst episode, or like Claw and Hoarder, or like the Citadel of Ricks, or
will it be a theme of this season that all episodes are unrelated and self-contained? Hopefully not, all fingers crossed.
Miraculously, I've run out of space on my phone just as I was wrapping my speech about the quality of the episode. The whole segment 2, which is how does this episode contribute to continuity of the season, in here is I already discussed everything. This one doesn't. It's a self-contained episode. There is also the deception and I feel red herring to the audience of the squid. So yeah, it doesn't. I'm introducing a whole segment which is not relevant here. Or it is. It's relevant because it doesn't contribute. And let's go to the segment 3, which is characters. Who are the Smith family members in this episode? I feel that I want to start with Summer because I love her and because I feel her role is pretty weird. Because I feel that the show creators kind of reached, a happy medium per them probably when it comes to Summer, because they allow her to be cool and to be independent and to be awesome, but only on the peripheries of the family. When she asks to, for example, join Rick and Morty in killing the Christian god, they say no, F you, Summer. So Summer bashing and if she steps out of line is a thing, but when she doesn't, she's cool and she can do whatever she wants. So I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. We'll see further down the line, I guess. When it comes to Morty, he doesn't really do much here. Yeah, he just doesn't have much to say, so I'll just skip right over him. When it comes to Rick and Beth, I'll discuss them together, because the whole fact that the decoys are clones and they struggle with it and they don't know if they are real or not is something that Beth has already gone through. So her experience is very, very relevant. And the discussion of her experience is taking place with jokes and quips from her to her father. She's angry at Rick, to be honest. There was a very cool, there are some very cool scenes that I will show Sun's sound for reasons, or I might do my own voiceover. We'll see. Anyhow, Beth is tense and angry at Rick, and Rick doesn't like that. He feels unsettled by her displaying outright dislike and anger at him. And in general, Rick seems to be more of a family man in this episode, more outright accepting, complimenting Smith family different ways. He tells the family they look cool. He, I think, appreciates them several different ways. And I think the further down into the episode, so the deeper we go into the decoys, the nicer he is, because apparently being a copy of himself emphasizes Rick's barely existent in original caring nature. Beth, I said, she's very assertive, and Jerry doesn't really do much except be a coward throughout the episode. The further down the line in the decoys, the worse Jerry gets as a person. Pinocchio Jerry leaves his whole family behind and lets them die because he wants to live. And this is a way harsher mirror of the situation where Jerry locks himself in a car to run away from a scary homeless man and leaves Beth to deal with him outside of the car. But within the episode, he doesn't really have much to do. He just escapes and gets worse. And it's so funny because sometimes where there are conversations in the spaceships, he's not even visible. That's how irrelevant he is to the family. But the post-credit scenes feature that previously mentioned Pinocchio Jerry and how his corpse is taken through the time. And the dolphin people, the cowboy people, another take on Christianity also happen to him. But I don't think he's particularly relevant there. To wrap things up, when it comes to the quality of the episode, after evaluating my feelings, I'm not actually disappointed and I really like it. When it comes to continuity, I am severely disappointed because I wanted to have a plot the season. When it comes to the characters, self-contained episodes cannot move characters forward. They cannot add anything, so they didn't really add anything. But it was cool to see how becoming a watered-down version of themselves affected each character's personalities. Because Morty wasn't much affected, Summer as well, to be honest. But Beth got more assertive, Rick got more familiar, and Jerry got worse. And that's it. And with that, I'll wrap things up for this video. See y'all probably once more this week for some video, but for Rick and Morty content, I will post it next Tuesday because the episode comes out every Monday in Poland, so a day later than in the US. Yeah, see you later and bye bye.